Welcome to Project Chatter, the podcast where PPM experts from various sectors talk about the latest trends. Listen to Val and Dale as they talk about tried and tested best practices and share their unfiltered thoughts about the industry. Whether you're here to learn how to progress your career, improve your project control skills, or just want to hear an Aussie and South African rant about projects, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Project Chatter podcast with your hosts, Dale Fung and Val Matthews.
In this episode, we spoke to Nick Chizuka, an infrastructure renewable energy advisory professional based in London. He holds an MBA with distinctions from the University of Bath, graduating top of his class and receiving the MBA Fernando Flores New Award for highest academic performance.
With over 5 years of experience spanning consulting, logistics, and project finance, he currently supports large-scale renewable energy project development and infrastructure and investor engagement at MKK Global Infrastructure, working with development, finance institutions, commercial banks, and government stakeholders across emerging markets. Nick combines strong analytical capabilities with practical operational experience, bringing a strategic and commercially focused approach to infrastructure and energy investments. Felt was interesting having Nick on, having recently graduated from Bath University, top of his class, as his bio says there, and the struggles and tribulations he's had with trying to enter into the job market. What are some of the things that stood out for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he's had some insight, and he's got a really good attitude, which sparked us as concerning, because someone top of their class with a great attitude, with good communications, should be easily employable. But Nick had some really good insights, including some interview tips that he got from Google, which was great to know. What about yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. It is concerning, and like I say, we explored it with him. I think that it'll be quite an interesting listen, not just for grads or those looking for a new job, but also for hiring managers to listen into, to try and make their own minds up. But yeah, look, we won't spoil it too much. Let's leave it there. Like we say, folks, keep listening, keep liking, and keep paying it forward.
Hello, project people. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Project Chatter podcast, your number one source of project professionals all around the globe. And it's good to see you, Dale. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it's freaking warm. It's like I'm on the equator at the moment. Got into my car this afternoon, 39.5 degrees Celsius. I might as well be in Oz.
You might as well, mate. Beach weather, that is. And no fan for you, because otherwise you distract us in the background. So
we tried putting my fan on, and Val was like, "What the hell's that noise?" And I'm like, "The UK isn't used to having fans on in the background."
Sound like you're moving a fridge in the background or something. It was weird. But look, you were talking about old farts on the pod, and we said we needed some fresh blood, someone who's got that pulse on the industry, someone in the job market, the up and coming, those kinds of people. And you found us, Nick. Nick, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing really, really well. Just not enjoying the heat at the moment, but yeah, everything else is good.
That's all right. We've got a little bit of internet disruption, but we'll hopefully carry on. Well, look, I'm interested in the UK market just as much as I'm interested in the Australian market, because we have the same challenges getting great talent into the project controls profession. But I would love to start with just what struck as an interesting field, because a lot of people don't start out in that project control space. They probably start as engineers, or they might go into planning, or even project management, and then end up in project controls. Mate, how did you cut your teeth in project controls? What led you to this fantastic craft?
Easy answer. Dale did. Dale's the reason.
Yeah, the power of influence. The power of influence.
Yeah. So yeah, as you know, so I just completed my MBA, and about 90% of MBAs want to get into management consulting, but the job market at the moment is, it's incredibly hard to get into management consulting. I'm sure we'll get into this deeper, but AI obviously is one of the problems. A few of these large consulting companies are laying off, some of the entry level positions. So I don't want to get too deep into it straight away. So yeah, that's I've tried to get into consulting and, kind of strategy, operations kind of roles, and things have been difficult. And then I thought maybe let me try move into Dell's world and
He's
see how that goes.
he's done a
Yeah,
number
that's
on you,
pretty
mate.
much how I found
It's a terrible job. It's hard. It's difficult. No one likes management consultants. Clients don't trust you. No, I'm just joking. I'm just pulling your leg. That's fantastic, mate. I think with us all being MBA alumni in some form and fashion, what did you think of your MBA to start with? Because I'm always curious about MBAs. Because obviously there's different breeds of types of MBAs around the world. Did you think it was a value add, or do you think it's useful but expensive?
Um, that's a difficult one. I personally feel it was a value add. It is very pricey, but I think I did an MBA that was very practical. So we did, a lot of projects with actual companies. We did pitches to real investors and just a lot of client work. So you get that kind of exposure, which you can only learn business by doing, not just learning theory. So in that sense, I would say it was a massive value add. Also, I like the fact that the MBA kind of makes you think like a strategist, and improves your leadership skills as well, and just helps you understand yourself better. We had a lot of emotional intelligence, um, kind of tests and stuff like that, which weren't graded, but it was just good ways to understand yourself as a leader and as a person. So yeah, I'd say overall, the MBA was a value add.
Yeah, fantastic. We're catching some disconnects over here, but we'll keep pushing through. Yeah, Dale. That's great, mate. Well, I think that one of the other challenges as well is does the world need more consultants? And if you ask anyone who's hyper successful, they'll tell you no. But I still think they do play a role in guiding clients to solutions. Maybe not necessarily as big as they used to, and that's probably what you're feeling. But tell us about the job market. How hard is it? Like, what's your view?
Um, Before I even answer that question, you just mentioned how useful consultants are, and I was going to say, well, clearly the consulting companies think they're not as useful if they're laying off so many. So that would answer your question. But going back to the job market thing, yeah, I mean it's been incredibly difficult. Um, pretty much everyone in my course thinks we've done an MBA maybe 3-4 years too late, because we've done it during the uprising of AI, which has made job hunting a lot more difficult. I think the people in the previous years all got jobs within 3 to 6 months, whereas for us, it's been, I think quite a few of my friends are still searching. So I've kind of
Wow.
been lucky to have known Dell.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying is the
Yeah.
previous cohort, they got jobs within 6 months, and you're saying your
Yeah,
cohort did not.
most.
Wow.
Yeah,
And Val, do you
there's
know what
very few.
do you know what the interesting thing is for listeners? We haven't mentioned Nick didn't just go to any university. He went to Bath University, which is consistently rated as one of the top 10 UK universities and consistently in the top 150 globally. And he finished top of his class, top of his
Amazing.
MBA class, right?
Amazing.
And he's struggling.
Other
Yeah.
than his internet, he's not struggling here. He seems like a really smart guy, and I'm trying to ascertain how hard it is, because I know I've spoken to people, Nick, in Australia. I think we're very similar in the sense that there is a challenge. I found it interesting in your second point, though, that the rise of AI has made it more difficult. And I remember
Yeah.
studying, probably in high school now, but studying before really the internet took over. And I remember how hard it was without having the internet to finish exams and assignments. Even for my MBA, I don't think we had much other than some assignments online, which were very, very clunky back in the day. Now you've got all these resources. So here's the question I have for you, Nick. We're resource rich, yet
Yeah.
finding job prospects or finding jobs for prospects like yourself who have all the talents, top of the class, have an MBA, have a qualification, seem to have a great attitude. What do you think would be the massive what do you call it, inhibitor? Because I would thought if you've done all of this great work and let's say you're AI enabled or you're a tech savvy guy, you would have all the skills that a great consulting group or a management consultancy company would want to have. Is that right? Or no?
Yeah, of course. So you need
Right.
you need a lot of analytical skills, which an MBA does provide. But I feel in the current day and age, a lot of people actually do feel you might be better off doing maybe data analytics instead of an MBA,
Yeah.
because that's where the world seems to be heading. And I think companies value technical skills in this day and age more than soft skills, which an MBA provides. So that's
Yeah.
one differentiator.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking we're going, Nick, and I'll jump to bring Dale into this as well because we've got some thoughts about education. But it's not necessarily the job market that's let you down. It's preparing for the job market that's letting you down because the education that you received wasn't a full. If you think of a master's, right, you think back in the day, even one cohort before you, a guaranteed job if you had a master's degree or a doctorate or etc. It used to be, I think there's a devaluation, but it used to be a bachelor degree would get you a job. You know, back in my day, if you even had any uni experience, you'd probably do all right. Now it's obviously getting devalued, but also what I'm seeing is, or what I hear you saying as well, is the work that you actually needed to do wasn't even encompassed in the product that you provide or you spent money on. The master's MBA, you know, that provided a little bit, but not enough. And now you're thinking you probably need to do something around data analytics, something around AI, data science, probably data engineering, prompt engineering, et cetera, et cetera. Dale, I might get you in this because I know you're very passionate about education as well. Can education keep up to help make sure that people like Nick can stay relevant in the job market?
It's interesting because the trends of hiring managers are really difficult to follow because I think half of the time they don't know what they're after in candidates anymore. Everyone's jumping onto this AI bandwagon. Oh, I must have, data scientists. I must have data engineers. I must have, solution architects. But do they actually know what to do with them? No, is the short answer. In most cases, they're relying on the candidates coming in to tell them what to do with them. And the problem with that is folks are highly technically gifted, but they're not ready in terms of, as Nick's saying, the strategic thinking and the outcome-based thinking that is required to come into a role and understand, how do I pull a solution together? I can do the technical thing. I can put a full ETL process together. I can data engineer for you. I can analyze the data, but I have no idea what I'm analyzing this for and what decisions need to be made, right? And so you almost want to go two in a box, where you want someone that's highly technically competent and someone that has that strategic view, right? Because here's the interesting thing. I think Nick and his cohort are probably victims of a trend that we're seeing that, in my mind, is not going to last too long. Because everyone's trying to jump on this AI bandwagon, they're going, I want all the technical people. But effectively what's going to happen over time, for me personally, is that you're going to need fewer technical people because AI can do its own technical things. We know it can do that today. And you're going to need more strategic thinkers, communicators, etc. It's almost like we've forgotten what's important. And that the skills we're looking for are the ones that we don't need for the future, but we think we need right now. And that's a problem. So I don't necessarily think it's an education problem. I think the people hiring candidates today don't really know what they're looking for because they don't know what the future jobs are going to be in any industry. That's what I think the challenge is. But if I bring it back to it, there is definitely a challenge that institutes have in terms of getting young people ready for the workplace as well, because academia need to work with practitioners for the current and future job market. And I don't see enough of that happening. I see some of it in the UK. There's some amazing things happening. I've been parts of conversations, roundtables, where you got academia practitioners coming together to try and bring in project management skills into GCSE level. So, your high school levels. It's not done yet, but these conversations are starting, which is absolutely fantastic. That doesn't solve the problem we have today. And I think in truth, both academia and practitioners, hiring managers, are trying to forecast what they think is going to be needed in the future. But if you are keeping up, like I say, with technology, you'll know that you don't actually need those technical skills. You actually need a generalist. That's my view. I might be totally wrong.
What's your view on that, Nick? Does that align with what you're thinking?
I think the two skills complement each other, if I'm honest with you. You do need soft skills and, leadership and thinking like a strategist, that kind of thing. But in this age, I feel like you need technical skills as well. And something interesting I didn't tell you guys before we started recording was so I recently started a part-time role, and guess what it is? Training AI agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, only a human can do that, so that's a good job, Nick. That's
Yeah.
important.
I mean,
That's important.
I'm here complaining about, not being able to get a job because of AI, and yet I'm part of the reason.
And you're helping the enemy right there, Nick. But look at it.
Yeah.
I granted, I think there's something, the human essence, right? There's something around, and I think you're right, Dale. There's going to be a boomerang effect to the AI industry, this rapid growth movement to everyone moving to tech. You see it every time there's a buzz or a trend, and maybe that's just me and Dale showing our age, Nick, but something happens.
I think that's just you showing you that you're Australian using the word boomerang. But anyway.
I thought it was relevant. At least hopefully half the listeners will understand what I'm talking about. But it will flop back because the challenge will be if everyone's skilled in tech, you're going to miss out on those, as you said, Nick, the soft skills. But ultimately, what is the thing that drives strategy? And my view is it's ingenuity and creativity that drives strategy. It's a different way of thinking. It's the artisan part of the brain. It's not the technical, tangible, practical. It's the blue sky thinking piece and it's very hard to switch between them. I even struggle to stay in the present, but then I'm usually not in the present, as Dale knows. I'm usually looking at the sky and watching birds and that kind of thing. But I'm thinking about the future. So I think there's a massive role for us to play, and I think it's a far more exciting role to be in the strategy space, Nick, rather than to be in the technical space, because I do think a lot of the technical work we're doing now, like training the agents, that will effectively be the trainer at some point, and then where is the job from there? I think there'll be a technical cap of how far you can progress in that space, but it's not to say that in the strategy space you can't have a technical appreciation, which I think was where we mostly sit, right? I have an appreciate of how things work. I kind of know how my iPhone works, but at some point it'll pass or surpass my understanding, which is okay as long as I can appreciate what it's trying to do, the intent. But I think there's an interesting space, Nick. You're going to say something a minute ago?
Yeah, I was going to say, adding to that, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was reading an article of a tech founder in the US. I can't remember which company it was, but he said they're starting to train their employees how to improve their soft skills, because he said something like, we can't be nerds forever. And he feels that he lacks soft skills and it actually limits him. So that's someone who's got, perfect tech skills saying that. So going back to what I said about you need, I feel like you need both skills.
Yeah, you do. You do. And to complement what you just said, Nick, I mean, all you have to do is look at how the big tech companies are behaving. So yeah, they might get rid of the bottom 10%, but that's not really what's driving the change. What you'll see is I think OpenAI was a couple of weeks ago, launched their own consulting business because they recognize that even if you have all of these great agents and technical capability, you've still got to get it through just traditional old change management, right? You still got to get it embedded in an organization that has massive amounts of enterprise products. If we're talking big companies, they're going to need consulting at the ground level. And if OpenAI thinks it's a good idea to get into consulting, Nick, then it's a good idea. And it's the bridge between the technical capability and the project leadership, right? Or the team leadership or the organizational design. All of that's going to take human effort to bring people on the journey, especially at this point in time. That might change over the course of a couple of decades, but as we have lots of employees in these big organizations at the moment, you talk about a 20,000 or 100,000 person organization, there is absolutely no way you could embed agents without people in there. And there's a lot of conversations around just keeping humans in the loop. I mean, I think we all recognize the dangers of letting any machine go automatically. I mean, you wouldn't let your car just drive around automatically without some oversight, right? I certainly wouldn't leave my coffee machine on automatically. It'll probably just flood my kitchen. So I think there'll always be a kill switch to some of this stuff. But Nick, how is it that someone like yourself, and this is just speculation, you probably don't know the answer, but someone like yourself, top of the class, MBA, clearly understands tech, understands strategy, communicates well as far as I'm concerned. How is it that you can't get a job? I feel for everyone else, Dale, in the market who may not even have that level of qualification and academic prestige and how they're doing. Have you got some stories, or what's your view on why you're not getting picked for these jobs, Nick?
I think the way you just described me there, I'm starting to feel like maybe I just don't sell myself the way I should.
Well, you sold yourself to Dale.
Yeah, no, I think I should write that what you just said down and kind of sell myself that way.
That's
But
it. That's it, Nick.
I've gone as far as even I managed to meet a recruiter from Google. He's a senior recruiter at Google, and he was just giving me tips to apply. But he kind of said, maybe you're not selling yourself well, and I think maybe just the way you've described me, kind of explains that.
Well, last time I checked, in an MBA, they don't teach selling, which I think is actually a skill that I learned after the fact, because it's something in consulting you 100% have to understand. And it's not necessarily the car salesman style. It's understanding what exactly they're articulating. Listening is probably the hardest thing. It's easy to go into a room knowing stuff and wanting to share it. I think a lot of consultants have a lot of passion, they have a lot of experience, a lot of technical acumen, and sometimes they get excited about the solution before the client's even spoken about what problem they have. But Dale, what do you think about sales and the soft skills? Because it is a soft skill, I suppose, after all, right? And people not selling themselves is probably part of that factor. It's very hard if you're a humble guy as well, like Dale is, and you probably are, Nick, and me to a degree. It's harder to talk about yourself than other things, and you probably park that a lot in your life. But Dale, what's your advice to listeners who are thinking, "Hey, I'm in the same boots as Nick. I probably don't sell myself as well as I should." What's your tips?
Well, the first thing we should clarify is I don't think you're humble at all, Val. I mean, you're Australian. Let's clear that up. No, I'm just kidding. It's too easy for you today. I think, I don't think that's just a Nick problem. I think, if I look back when I was in uni, my, early 20s as well, getting into the job market, you don't want to necessarily oversell yourself. And it's not that there's a lack of confidence. There's, especially if you come from a place of as you say, humility, where you know your shit, but you don't want to be arrogant about it, right? You don't want to come across as that guy. However, you then are at risk of underselling yourself, which is doing yourself a disservice at the same time. So it's hard to get the balance right, particularly if you're entering the workforce, right? Because if you're entering the workforce, you don't actually know what is etiquette and what isn't. You've never been in interviews before. You've never sat in watching others do interviews either. I mean, Val, we can share war stories about being in interviews and how people come across well and poorly. And you learn from interviewing others as well, or just sitting and observing how they interview.
Correct.
And
yeah.
there's a very, very fine line between confidence and arrogance. And oftentimes I think young folk can misinterpret where that line is. We've all seen where the arrogance comes through, and it's probably overconfidence. And then you have to sometimes eke out of those candidates where you go, actually, this person's got something about them, but they're not, you know, it's not a communication skill. I think it's an experience thing, because it's not even not having the skill to sell. It's almost like, am I allowed to? Is this the right place to showcase who I am? And I think the short story is, for anyone, you know, going in for an interview and trying to, inverted commas, sell themselves, that's your chance to showcase how good you actually are, right? And humans are finely, you know, emotionally tuned individuals. We can pick up when someone's being genuine across the other side of the table. So if I'm a candidate, I would actually encourage or ask for an in-person interview. Don't wait for the hiring manager or recruiter to ask you. I'd actually say, hey, look, I want to go and interview in person with a hiring manager so you can connect with them. You'll differentiate yourself, you know, amongst all of the others. So it's an interesting facet, but one of the things, to shift gears slightly, Nick, I'm interested in asking you is, have you discussed with your cohort, your mates, what the potential future jobs might be with the impact of technology that don't exist today? Because I'm really interested in that. I've asked people that have been in the workforce, and they speculate because, let's be honest, we don't truly know. I'm interested to hear someone entering the workforce going, actually, if we're struggling to get jobs now, what are some of the ones that would exist in 4, 5, 10 years' time that don't exist today?
Well, it's mainly centered around data analytics. I've had a conversation with one or two of my classmates, and yeah, I think it's more anything data really is what people, I think, should be focusing on going forward.
When you say anything data, do you mean data analytics? Do you mean visualization? Do you mean machine learning? Do you mean AI agents with data? What specifically? Because data is a big topic, right?
Yeah, I'd probably say data analytics and possibly machine learning as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, I personally wouldn't have said that. Val, what's your take on that? Not that you're wrong, by the way, just my view.
Well,
Yeah.
I think data is a broad topic. You're right, and there's so many different facets in there. But I think what we're going to end up in is the digitization of the globe, and that's because of connectivity and the way I see physical AI moving forward. So we've kind of, if you think about where we're the buck stop piece, the internet is consuming itself. It's like a snake eating its own tail, in the sense that there's only so much information in the virtual world that machines and agentic tools can use. They need to flip that into the physical world, which is what we're seeing now, right? Is people and tools to get them out in our physical world and relate to that information, which is a far bigger data set. If you think about the globe as a data set, then robotics is the next big breakthrough. And then if you think about that being the next breakthrough, then what would robotics need to maintain? And it'll be a while before robots are fixing themselves, although who Who knows, right? If you've been listening to the Project Chatter podcast over the past few years, you'll know there's been more and more hype about AI transforming the way big construction and infrastructure projects get delivered. And it can be genuinely hard to work out which companies are actually delivering something meaningful and which are connecting to ChatGPT to summarize reports.
Well, one company that talks the talk and certainly walks the walk is Enplan. They've been around since 2017. Their AI has been used to forecast and de-risk some seriously high-profile programs. Trans-Pennine Route Upgrade, LNG Canada, HS2 are just a few. And they're trusted daily by teams at Chevron, National Grid, the MBTA, and plenty more. We've had Dev, their CEO, on a few times, and Alan, the CTO and co-founder, is a regular on our sister podcast, the Gen AI podcast, so we know these guys.
Why are we bringing it up now? Because the biggest event in the calendar, and arguably the biggest event for those following the topic of AI construction, is coming up. AI Day. It's actually not a whole day. It's just an afternoon, evening. But if you've never been, it's an absolute must. The February one sold out. The room was absolutely rammed and Project Chatter was there. And what the guys demoed created a huge buzz afterwards.
This time round, you'll get a first look at what they've been building, which is mind expanding. And then there's a fireside chat with Peter Hancock from National Grid, who's delivering the Didcot substation upgrade, and Dima Pogorelski from BCG, who advises some of the biggest CapEx programs in the world.
And after that, there's networking with the Project Connect Group crew.
It's on the 25th of June at Cachet on Old Street in London. And there's a live stream if you can't make it in person. Links are in the show notes, so if you want to know where AI in project controls and delivery is right now and where it's headed, this is the place to be.
I see like mechatronics being a big push. They'll run out of people who understand robotics in its sense. Then the next big issue will be how they deploy robotics. So there'll be logistics and there'll be ways of training robots in your house, in your work. I don't think we'll be doing factory work. That's what, I think there's also the negation of jobs, right? I think factory work and assembly work, transactional work will start to really become automated or robotic in nature because it just makes sense, right? You've seen, there was a video that last week, was it Anthropic or one of these? No, it wasn't Anthropic. It was another robotic company. They had one on an assembly line. I think it was for like postage parcels or something. And they had a comparison with a human and the robot. And look,
200 hours they celebrated, non-stop working. Yeah,
non-stop working for 200 hours. And look, the pace was about the same. So from a quota perspective and an error margin perspective, I don't know how the error margin was, but look, we're only at the start of it and you can already see where that's going. So my view and my bet is probably on the physical AI piece being the biggest skills gap, because all of those elements, even making the products and the parts themselves, you know, there'll be a big shift to keeping these robots alive. And then I imagine there'll be a lot of consulting, Nick, and this is your opportunity here, mate. How do I get robots, Nick, into my business? How do I get them into my house? How do I get them to cook me breakfast? You know,
I was going to say, it's actually quite hard to tell how things will be in the next 5 to 10 years at the current pace of things, because things are moving so fast. I mean, even with, say, just generative AI, you know, ChatGPT and all these, if you look at how, say, ChatGPT was just 12 months ago, and you look at it now and how much more advanced, or Gemini or Claude, you start to think, you know, that the amount of advancements they've made in just a short period of time, what's he going to look like in, you know, 3, 4, 5 years? And I kind of feel the same with robotics. Is it which company is it that has that robot that does house tasks now?
It's like Omo or something, or I know you're talking about the one that starts.
Yes, it's $20,000 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They range from 30,000 to I think the cheapest are 10,000. Unitree is quite famous as well, out of China.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to advance as well, and you know they'll be able to do more complex tasks in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and that will just carry on.
You know what the interesting thing is? Sorry to jump in there on the robotics topic. I was in our lab in Italy last week and got to see and play with all the different types of robotics. When we think robotics, predominantly most people, when you say robotics, you think of a humanoid, right? But there's so many different forms of robotics out there that it's almost limitless in terms of where robotics can take us and the use cases that they are for robotics. So I just wanted to put that out there whilst we're talking about the robotics topic, because like I say, most people think humanoids, but there's quadrupeds. There's quadrupeds with wheels on them, right? You can attach arms to the quadrupeds. You can have drones with arms. You can underwater drones. There's all sorts of things that you can do.
Yeah.
And then you have wearables with edge computing as well. So there's so much that technology can do in the physical world that we haven't yet begun to explore. And as Val was saying, I think this is a huge opportunity for graduates coming in to try and understand the use cases of robotics in the real world, whether that be on a construction site, whether it be in a hospital, whether that be in a restaurant, wherever it may be. But yeah, sorry, Val, I know you wanted to say something, but
No, it's okay. It's true. It's robotics itself will be. I think in the future, Nick, could be considered the same thing as data. So data is just a broad range of things, right? Robotics will be a broad range of things, and there'll be so many subsets underneath that. But we're still capped out. Like, don't forget, we will still need energy. We'll still need infrastructure for data centers. There is a massive challenge to just build the infrastructure for AI, and so it will cap. There's not enough renewable energy yet to manage the data center juice. You know, they need a lot of pull from a power perspective. And so, you know, the next frontier is probably, and they're talking about it now, whether it's viable or not, I have no idea, but space-based data centers. I think we might have talked about this, Dale, in one of our previous episodes. And the chase to set up the first moon base, which the US are very keen on. I think China's trying to do the same. Not just to harvest minerals, but to start setting up. And to do that, it's a good, compelling North Star because it means that you'll need autonomous robots, vehicles. You'll need to know how to set up stations that are viable for life and plants and agriculture, etc. So it'll give them the thoughts and the use case, Dale, to start building all the infrastructure that they will need over there. And Elon Musk is kind of doing that in separate company forms, right? But if you look at it as an integrated whole, you can see where he's kind of going to be a multi-planetary species. He needs robots. He needs a boring company. He needs a rocket company. You know, he needs the ability to control the human race. Not just joking. That's the neural network link. But even that area's made some advancements, right? You know, there's a plug that he puts in the back of someone's brain, and they've got a new version of that, Dale. I don't know if you saw where it's just a cap almost, and it doesn't need to infer and put wires in there, but they can read your thoughts, pull pictures from your dreams. So look, we're entering, as you said, Nick, into a very strange place. But Dale's right. Like, try and understand the use cases. Like, what are they trying to solve? The problem statements will drive the job market. And if you can anticipate where the use cases are going to be for the maximum value, then start a consultancy in there. I mean, you don't have to work for the Big Four or the Big 10. You know, you can start your own Nick.co. You know, AI consulting for physical AI. You know, so look, I think the challenge as well with the new well, this is my interpretation. Nick can tell me off if I'm wrong. The young don't know how good they've got it. The old don't have enough time to get good at it. So there's a gap in the middle where if you're entrepreneurial enough, if you can see what the market is doing, and every entrepreneur has to bet on themselves at some point, right? But if you can anticipate a need somewhere, this is the best time in the history of the globe to do it. We've got relatively peaceful times. Yes, things cost a lot of money, but in scarcity comes creativity, and in creativity comes, you know, the next billion-dollar company. And you think about every business case of the successful companies today, a lot of them are hinging off the back of the .com bubble. You think about Amazon, etc. You think about the stories you've heard about SpaceX and Tesla and almost going bust, but they saw the value and the gap in the market. You know, so there is an opportunity to carve out something for yourself, Nick. It's just a question of where will the market go and what do you do with that? Do you work for a Big Four for 5 years, or what's your intention, Nick? Maybe I'll get into that as a question rather than a statement. Is once you get into one of these Big Four, what's the plan, Nick? What's your career plan? How are you going to scale in a company like, let's say we give you a job tomorrow at Dale.com. Where do you go from there?
So I'd say more than 90% of people that get into those firms get in with the intention of leaving in 2 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They get in there, they learn whatever skills they need to learn, and they network as well. And then after that, they get into industry. So in the case of management consulting firms as well, say, I'll give you an example. You meet with a client, on a regular basis, and you form a relationship with this client, and you work at this firm, this management consulting firm, 2 3 years. But now, because you got connections, it's easier for you to say move to that client, to that client afterwards. uh from what I've heard, that's what a lot of management consultants do. So I don't think many people actually go in with the intention of making a career out of it. They go in, it's kind of a prestigious job, so it's nice on your CV. But then you learn all these skills and you meet all these clients and all these people. So um yeah, I think for me as well, wanting to become a management consultant, that was the goal as well. I don't see myself in consulting 20 30 years or whatever. Just be like 2 to 5 years and then try get into industry.
It's interesting
Yeah.
take that because and maybe those before you have set that precedent and hindered the ability to get hired if that's what graduates are going to be doing by these big companies, because there's a onus on any employer to not only attract but retain talented people.
Mhm.
And if you can't, then you've failed, right? And in most instances, most consultancies, especially the larger ones, treat consultants as just another asset. How can I sweat the asset rather than the humans behind, the role? And that's a challenge, and that's troubling as well. But the other thing that, and I'll put sort of Val in the spotlight. Val likes to say quite often on this podcast that youngsters don't have grit and they don't want to stick through things during the tough times. Do you think that's true, Nick?
Well, first of all, just to put this out there, I'm not a Gen Z. I'm a millennial like you guys. I just missed the cutoff point by about 2 years. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I have heard of that. I kind of lean towards that view myself, if I am honest with you. I see it a lot on social media, and just how can I put this in short? Just I don't know, people, yeah, just the resilience factor. Young people don't seem to have that, kind of resilience, and things that say my father tried to instill in, me and my siblings, obviously because he came from a tough background. But yeah, with younger people today, I don't really see that.
And why is that? Do you think they've had it too easy?
Yeah, as Val mentioned just a few minutes ago, yeah, I think people don't realize how easy things are for them. They've got AI now, they've got all this information at their disposal, but they just don't want to use that to their advantage.
Yeah. I think there is something, and I don't blame them either, by the way. I think if Dale and I were born in this era, we might be easier people with less battle scars. And maybe we're, out of it's the nurture and the nature thing as well. I think if you've got good parents who remind you of the hard times and you have a concept and understanding of history, then you can at least appreciate it even from a third perspective. But I feel like a lot of people today, they're just not realizing how much capability they've got just in their hands. I mean, not just the phone, but now you've got AI agents, and you can literally learn or build anything. You can create anything you like from imagination today. I find that fascinating. I really do. I find it amazing. I find it better than any encyclopedia or books that I learned when I was a kid. And all of this is literally sitting in your living room while you watch Netflix, you can build stuff. And I find that fascinating because, literally you have all the things you could ever want delivered to you at the door. If you're hungry, you can order something, it'll be at your door in 20 minutes. If you want to buy something online, it could be at your door in 2 hours. If you want to build something, you can pull any model that's worth its salt off the internet and build it on your local computer. I think that's amazing. It's a gift. And I guess when we interview people, Dale, we're not necessarily just looking for people who or tick the boxes, right? We're looking for that extra special something, that drive, that creativity. But I think it all comes from something similar, which is when you're in hard times, you have to discipline yourself to do hard things. And I think discipline's the missing key here. And so if you can do things you don't want to do, but you do them anyway, and you'll see this with people who are relatively fit or pursue a sport or something else on the side. I actually look now for people, Dale, and I don't know if, Nick, this is something that will help you in your interviews, but I ask people, what do they do with their spare time? And that actually tells me a lot about the person themselves. Are they in a sporting team? Do they go to cricket? Do they travel? Do they play music? Do they sing? Do they do something else other than Netflix and chill? And I think that also gives me an insight. Do you know what I mean? I know that's the wrong term, but I love to tease my friends. But you know what I mean? I love the fact that gives me insight into the attitude and the character of a person. The character of the person is what I hire now over technical. And Dale and I have said this before, and Dale knows, we hire for attitude. Nick, we train for skill. Is that something you've ever been asked in an interview? I'd love to know, actually. Has anyone said to you, so Nick, what do you do for fun?
Yeah. Pretty much every interview, in these the upper tier firms, they ask, what you do with your personal life and activities and things like that. But I think say in management consulting firms, they want to know your leadership skills as well. So they'll ask you questions like, what would you do in this and this kind of situation? If you're working in a team and there's this kind of dispute, how would you handle that? So they want to they want to know your interpersonal skills as well, how you handle other people, your emotional intelligence, things like that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, those are always important. The hard thing in an interview is proving that, and everyone can have a textbook answer, and that's the hard bit.
Yeah.
But it was great, Nick. I think we'll get Dale in here. I know he's got one more for you.
Yeah, I think just commenting on what you're saying there, Nick, I think the challenge we have is that a lot of organizations are looking for people with not just technical skills and, soft skills. I don't really like the term soft skills, but everyone knows what I talk about when I say that. But then the third element they look for, which is really a challenge for graduates, is experience. And it's such a hard thing because you can only gain experience by actually giving someone a job to get the experience. And if you don't give people the opportunity, how do we expect to hire people that have experience if we're not giving them opportunities to gain it? And so if you're a hiring manager listening to this, right, give that inverted commas kid a go, right, that doesn't have the experience. See what they can do. Right? Val says it all of the time on this podcast. People aren't their behaviors. They behave in the environment that they find themselves. And if you set the environment for success for graduate, I guarantee you they'll knock your socks off. If they've got the right attitude, you'll see they'll fly. And I'm proud to say, with us, where we are with Movar, we've given so many young people the opportunity, and you see how they take it. And, our head of AI, data and AI, is 20, 25, 26 years old. Right? Because if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I'm proud to say that. So, sharing that just because hopefully it inspires other hiring managers out there to give people a shot. But I guess my final question, Nick, for you coming towards the end is what, if you had your classmates listening to you now, others that are about to graduate as well, what advice would you give them?
That's it's actually probably need just a minute to think of this.
It's not an easy question, right? It's tough
Yeah,
out there.
it isn't. Yeah, it's tougher than a lot of people would imagine. I think especially being in the position myself, because there's so many factors that go into applying to get a job and interviews and things like that. Um, there's a number. Probably do not get discouraged. Um, I started applying while still in my program, and I was applying to maybe 20, 30 a day at some point, and getting constant rejections. But I just kept pushing on. That's one thing as well. Just don't give up. Um, yeah, try get some professional help as well, with CVs and things like that. And, people that can actually tell you what you're getting wrong. Like I mentioned earlier, I met with a senior recruiter from Google, and that was really helpful for me. Just I randomly sent a message to some random senior consultant on LinkedIn a few months ago, and he responded to me, gave me his phone number, and we had like an hour call. And he was giving me tips as well. So I reached out to people who are in those positions as well. Yeah, and that connects to the last thing I want to say. Networking is the most important thing in this day and age, I feel, because I mean, even with the role I'm doing now, just through you, Dale, uh, it's extremely important. You have to get out there and meet people in these industries.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. One of the things I'll add to that is, and I don't think this is just for graduates, but if you are a grad entering the workforce, don't go to middle management or a senior manager or an exec partner, whatever that might be in an organization. Go to the graduate that just got a job. Say, how did you get it? Because they're going to know, right? If you're a consultant, or if you've been in industry for 2-3 years and you want to make the next step up, maybe you want your first leadership role, don't go talk to the C-suite exec. Go talk to the person that's just got that next level management role. If you're middle management and you want to make it to senior management, don't go talk to the exec. Talk to the person that's just done it. That makes sense, right? Because they will know what they've just done. Often at times I think we try and make that leap and let me message the CEO of this company. They're going to be like, I get hundreds of these messages a day. Go talk to the grad that applied last year and got the job and go, how did you get it? Because that's more relevant to you than what the C-suite guy says. But that's my 2 cents, Val. Any final words or thoughts from you?
Yeah, no, it's really good to hear from your side of the story, Nick. We don't always get this, and I think back to the data creating, right? You won't know if you don't ask. So one of the things that I think Dale and I both did in our careers is we sought out mentors, and you have to ask, right? One of the hard things is actually asking someone to be your mentor. It took me some time and some courage, but you're doing the right things. You go out there, you put yourself in a position which is probably uncomfortable for most people, right? Especially if they're not extroverted and they don't like being out there. Social media has actually made it harder for them because they think that's how you connect with people, which we all know that's not how humanity works. You need to be out there physically meeting people, shaking hands, looking them in the eye. But you'll be surprised where these mentors come from. And Dale and I have been very lucky. It's actually what's helped us start this podcast. And we have a mantra now called Pay It Forward, because many managers before us had done the same thing and said to us, look, I'm happy to give my time to you, Dale and Val, as long as you do the same for the next person coming up in their careers. And so we've carried that mantle ourselves over the last 20 years. And so I would say to the people that are listening to this as well, Nick, is find people in your industry that can provide you the insights that you need to grow. Think of it like data collection, your analytical mindset. Think of it as collecting all these data points from different people's experiences, and that starts to then help you form a journey and a path, and you'll be surprised how quickly that takes you on your career.
Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
So hopefully, listeners, you got something out of this. I certainly did. It gave me great perspective of where the next generation are seeing their challenges through Nick's eyes. But of course, if you have other challenges that you want to share, do get in touch with us. Val and I are always keen to hear from anyone and happy to respond. If you want to come on the podcast as well, give us a shout too.
Indeed.
But look, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod. And thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really good. Nerve-wracking at the beginning, but yeah, I enjoyed myself. Thanks,
Well
guys,
done,
for
mate.
having me.
Well done.
No, it's our pleasure. We went easy on you. No, all good. So, folks, there you have it. This is the end of this episode. But remember, if you like what you've heard, please do help us and pay it forward and share a link to this episode on your favorite social media. Once again, a massive thank you to our guest, Nick Chizuka, and thank you all for listening. Till next time, we say stay safe, be disruptive, and have fun doing it. From me and Val, it's bye for now.